Venezuelan gangs are taking over entire apartment complexes just outside of Denver city limits in Aurora. If you haven't seen this, I mean, this news is going nationwide. Like, check out what's going on here. It's pretty wild.
It's a scene that seems to be out of a developing nation where corruption and violence run rampant. But this surveillance video is from an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
To your knowledge, what are the men in this video doing?
They are going through the complex, like I'm told that they are, heavily armed. They patrol the complex. They control who comes in, who goes out. They go from door to door. They have forced their way into many complexes. They have thrown people out.
So that's just some footage from Ring Doorbell from one of the tenants that lived there, and then followed up by and I know every city has crime. I totally get that. Like, stuff happens all the time. This is a little out of the ordinary.
4 Venezuelan migrants associated with the same gang were just indicted for this jewelry store heist in Denver. 2 others believed to be involved in the attack of New York City police officers in Times Square in January. And the suspect in the murder of Laken Riley has connections as well. Venezuela and some other countries have no diplomatic relationship with the United States, which means information about migrants' backgrounds would not be shared.
So this is concerning. I mean, I've had family members even reach out to me here wondering if I'm okay. Now, Denver's a good sized city. We're not large, but you hear this stuff and you wonder at this day and age, how much of this is just blown out of proportion, what's real. So I decided to take most of the day actually and really dig into this and find out what's going on, seeing interviews and reading quotes from chief of police and the mayor, and listening into Jared Polis, our governor, on what's going on here. It's turned kind of political. But I have clients reaching out to me wondering what the heck is going on too. So from a real estate perspective, which is the primary goal of this channel, is to teach you, about what the Denver market is doing and inform you on what's going on with your largest asset, your home. Does this affect you as a Denver homeowner? How is this going to spread? Is this going to spread to the rest of the city, or is this just a localized event? And so I'm going to share with you what I kind of found today. And if you do want to have a one-on-one conversation with me about what's going on in the Denver market, whether you're looking for an opportunity, whether you're looking to get out of the city, just scan this QR code. You can schedule a call with me. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter. Likewise, you can just call me right on my cell phone here. Text me anytime. I got you covered. I had a whole thing planned on interest rates dropping and buyers coming out of the woodworks, and the market's feeling a little bit better for sellers, and inventory is still being stifled. And we'll just have to save that for next week, because this is too big and too out of left field to not really dive into. And so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Alex Saldana. I've been a local Denver agent since 2010. I love to keep you informed on what our city is doing. It is my favorite city. I've lived in a number of places all around this country, and Denver still doesn't compare to any of them. Our lifestyle is just incredible. And so despite what's going on right now, I still love my city. So let's just start with what is actually happening. Okay, let's just kind of set the tone here. Basically, what we have going on is we have some apartment buildings in part of Aurora. So kind of the central western part of Aurora, just south of Colfax, and to show you what area they're talking about. Okay, so here we've got Google Maps. And as I zoom out here, we've got downtown Denver to the left here, okay? And then this through street, this yellow line is Colfax, okay? And as we head east on Colfax, I mean, we're talking, this is Congress Park, Cheeseman Park area, City Park, multi-million-dollar homes. As we head into Park Hill, multi-million-dollar homes, some of the most expensive homes around the Denver area. And then as we keep heading east, we have this cutoff line. Yosemite is where the dividing line is between Denver and where Aurora starts. And, this whole stretch has been revitalizing over the last handful of years. I mean, heck, I've got a good friend of ours that lives just up here off of Tamarack. And it's been an evolving area for a long time. And since prices have just skyrocketed over the last 10 years, what happens is the more inexpensive parts of the city kind of get, and just throw the word out, gentrified, right? you start having younger people moving in and they start fixing up properties. Property values start going up because it's what they could afford. Hipsters usually are the first movers on these neighborhoods, and they turn into cool, hip spots. And that's how the city kind of grows and keeps expanding out. And, it's really just based off of supply and demand and what people can afford that pushes you into different parts of town. And these apartment complexes are right by Lowry. Okay. And so this area is, it's historically been more affordable. 2-3 bedroom, 1,000 square foot ranches. And I mean, I've worked a lot in these neighborhoods. I've got other friends who live a handful of blocks away from this. And so when they started talking about it, I started digging in going, okay, what's going on? Now, if you're from a big city, you might know what a project is. Okay. I'm from Chicago. I knew what the projects were. Cabrini Green comes to mind on the south side. Huge apartment buildings, 30 floors high, a dozen of them next to each other, and they're just kind of run down. They're city funded, and so the places aren't kept clean. There's gangs all over the place, and they're kind of running the show around there. And so I was like, God, we really don't have that here in Denver. What are these apartment buildings that they're talking about? And you're like, okay, there may be like 20, 30 units each, so 100 something units between these 5-ish buildings or so. They're like, yeah, there's some trash on the streets, and but the windows, they're not all broken in, they're not all boarded up. But you look in the back, and gosh, you can actually even see the dump truck there. And there is a pretty extreme pile of trash happening here. Not sure when this was taken. It says it was captured July of 2024, so that would have been pretty recent. But essentially what I've found happening is that these gangs, how they got there, I don't know. Denver is a sanctuary city, so we can blame it on Denver allowing them in and them not getting the job opportunities like they were promised. And then, they had to turn to crime and all this stuff. We could take the political route, but I'm not going to do that. No one turns anybody else into a criminal. You make your own decisions as a human. And there's plenty of good people coming from all over the country here, or all over the world here, I should say. And so I'm not gonna buy into that garbage. They found probably an opportunity, right? And why they found an opportunity, unfortunately, I think part of it leaks back into funding and people not wanting to be police officers at their wages and what's going on right now. And there were some quotes that I saw while digging through this, and I've experienced it myself. So why are they able to take a stronghold, foothold in this neighborhood, in these buildings, and basically run wild? Well, the police aren't responding to anything that's not an actual crime. So someone's walking down your hall with a machine gun, and you call the police and say, hey, there's some guy walking around with a machine gun. They actually are not coming out. And they're saying point blank, they're not going to come out unless a crime has been committed, and a violent crime at that. I got into a hit and run accident a handful of months ago on the highway at 70 miles an hour. It could have been really bad. And we called the police. This person did not stop. And so we're following them through the neighborhood. And the police point blank said, is anybody hurt? We said, well, no. And they said, well, then here's a link to our website to report it. That's it. That's the response. We have their license plate number. We have their vehicle information, and they're not going to do anything. They're not going to come out to the scene either. And so the same thing was said to this lady who, is making this case, and she's the one that has gotten these national headlines, that she called into the police numerous times and they're not responding. And on top of that, the Aurora Police Department chief is saying that unless we have 3 or 4 available officers to go out to that one event out there, they're not going. So, and for obvious reasons, I mean, if you do have a gang and they've got 5, 10, 15, 20 guys, around these buildings with guns communicating with each other, like, do you want to be that one police officer to go up the door and be like, hey, I think we have a problem here? No, you don't. You want backup. So on top of the issues we already have with law enforcement not enforcing our laws or going after people who are breaking them, unless it's a serious situation, you've got it coupled with, unless we have enough police officers for the violent crimes, we're not going out there. So everything is so delayed. And so you can kind of do whatever the heck you want, right? And so what I've been reading on what's actually happening, and I think it was blown a little bit out of proportion. Okay. The stories I was hearing was that these gangs were collecting rent money from all these people who lived there instead of the property owner, right? I don't know who the property owner is. I haven't looked into that. I haven't interviewed them, and I don't know the truth behind it. One lady that was interviewed was stating that, yes, she did have to give them money, and she was giving them food and whatever she could just to keep them at bay. And I have no doubt that that's real. And I mean, there's videos of these guys breaking into multiple apartments. Whether or not it's just a break-in or whether it's a shakedown like the mob would do and trying to collect rent from everybody, I don't exactly know. And I don't think anybody does unless you live there. So, that's what I'm seeing. And I'm kind of seeing a little bit isolated, but will it expand into other areas? And there's a chance it will, right? So if you were a criminal and you saw that, hey, outside of Denver, they're not doing a whole lot to these guys that are taking over these apartment buildings, and you saw an opportunity, would you take it? Possibly. Let's hope not. Let's hope this doesn't expand. Let's hope this stays localized and we get a foothold on it, because now that it's catching national traction, like I'd really like to think that it's going to get the attention that it needs. FBI has poked into it, but they haven't done anything either. So I don't know what they're going to do about it. If they got to do a big old clean sweep of everybody and get, 100 officers in there and just gather everybody up. But it's kind of seeming like you might have to go that route. You might have to go above and beyond to really nip this in the bud fast before it does get out of control. But this area, in case you don't know, I mean, let's go back to this map and look at some of the other places, that are close to this, because if you're not from here, you might see this and go, okay, like, what is the neighborhood actually like? So here's Dallas, here's 12th. This is right where they're, talking about having all their issues. So around the corner from there, we've got a 3-bedroom, 1-bath place for sale for $400,000. I mean, this is 2 blocks from where this stuff is happening. And for $400,000, I can promise you it doesn't get you a great house. Might get you an okay house in this neighborhood, somewhat updated, but it's on the small side. It's 1,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, 1-bath for $400,000. That is completely normal in this neighborhood. I mean, places literally, let's take a look here and look at everything closed in the last 12 months. Let's see how close someone has just bought to these apartment buildings and what they closed for. Okay, these are the 5 apartment buildings right here. Across the street, we've got $380 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $405 for a 2-1, and $460 for a 3-3. This is 100 yards away from where all this stuff is happening. And so, I mean, 1,700 square feet for $460,000. This might be an okay looking house in this area, moderately updated, kind of opened up floor plan. Like, it looks like a decent little place. 1,800 square feet. And this is around the corner. I mean, right down the street, a handful of houses down from where this is all taking place right now. Like, this person, if they put 20% down on their mortgage, they're paying $3,000 plus a month to live around the corner from where these gangs are taking over apartment buildings. If we go down the street to the west, just a mile, we're going to have $950,000 places for sale. Okay. This is less than a mile away, right down the way. So, Denver is not that big of a city. And I know we're talking about Aurora here, and Aurora already gets a bad rap. But I think this is going to be kind of localized. I do think they'll get a hold of it before it gets out of control, and we'll be able to move on and just talk about this as a thing of the past and not too long. Now, what's my advice for home sellers, property owners around here? I think this can have a cascading effect. I think fear is high right now, especially during an election year. So what I think is going to happen is that if you're a landlord and you're already tired of being a landlord and you don't know if you want to be a landlord anymore, I think this could tip the scales and have more widespread rental properties come up for sale across the city, right? Because I don't think, even if you're close to this within a mile, like, okay, you've got real fear on your hands. Maybe it'll happen to you. Maybe you'll have squatters in your place. But as a bigger, broader city feeling, the narrative right now is not great. And so I think it can spread. And like I said, I think if you're a tired landlord, I think this might be enough just to tip you over the edge. So we might see a lot more of those properties come up on the market that need work, things like that, which I do think makes for an opportunity for a lot of people, depending on where you're looking at, right? So we can go 1.5 to 2 miles from this location and have some pretty solid spots for a place to buy solid little starter homes, right? So if you're younger, and you're okay with being in an area that's transitioning, like, I think there could be some opportunities to go along with this narrative and this headline. I'm going to keep you updated weekly as to what's going on in our Denver market. But if you have any questions specifically, call me, text me, feel free, reach out. I'm happy to chat with you. And if you missed last month's numbers on what the real estate market is doing and how it's affecting your home value, watch this video. I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about what the Denver market's doing.